Hi friends, welcome back to Hyderabad Hub. A few days ago, I posted GMAT sentence correction, subject-verb agreement part 1. I discussed a few basics of sentence correction and some subject-verb agreement rules. In this video, I discuss the remaining topics of subject-verb agreement. For a good understanding of subject-verb agreement, please watch subject-verb agreement part 1. Then you could watch part 2. I have given the link in the description for my part 1 video. Please watch it. In my previous video, I discussed 3 topics, namely the meaning of the subject, types of subjects, and modifiers as middlemen. Moreover, under the topic of types of modifiers or modifiers that act as middlemen, I discussed prepositional phrases, relative clauses, present participial phrases, and past participial phrases. Now, I discuss the remaining 2 modifiers, namely additive phrases and non-essential modifiers. Additive phrases. The word and can join 2 or more singular subjects, forming a compound plural subject. For example, the teacher and the students have attended the seminar. In this example, the word and joins a singular noun, teacher, with a plural noun, the students, and we use a plural verb, have. In contrast, singular subjects followed by additive phrases such as with, along with, together with, in addition to, including, as well as accompanied by, take a singular verb. Look at the examples. The teacher as well as the students has attended the seminar. In this example, as well as the students is an additive phrase, and the noun which is part of the additive phrase cannot be considered for the subject. The additive phrase functions as a modifier or a middleman. So after we eliminate or ignore the middleman, only the singular noun, the teacher, is left. Look at one more example. The new administrative committee, including the founders, has 20 members. In this case, the subject is the new administrative committee and the verb is singular. Finally, the defense lawyer's argument, accompanied by forensic evidence and eyewitness, has been crucial in the courts reaching the historic verdict. The subject is the defense lawyer's argument and the verb is has or has been, and the middleman is, or the modifier is, accompanied by forensic evidence and eyewitness. The last type of modifier is non-essential modifier. A non-essential modifier usually contains some well-known information about the subject or a noun. Also, descriptions about a unique place or a unique person are usually non-essential. For example, London, the capital city of the UK, is the biggest city in the Great Britain. In this example, the phrase the capital city of the UK is the non-essential modifier, and the fact that London is the capital city of the UK is well known. Moreover, London is a unique place. Hence, the capital city of the UK is called the non-essential modifier. Usually, we place the non-essential modifier between two commas. Let us look at one more example. Ron's wife, who is a doctor, has been nominated for the Nobel Prize. In this example, who is a doctor is a non-essential modifier, and the noun or the subject Ron's wife is unique in the sense that Ron has only one wife. Now look at one more example. Dr. Rajendra Prasad, the first president of India, was honored with the nation's highest civilian award, Bharat Ratna. In this sentence, there are two non-essential modifiers. The first non-essential modifier is the first president of India, which is a well-known fact. And the second non-essential modifier is Bharat Ratna, which describes the highest civilian award, which is unique. In this sentence, the first non-essential modifier is placed between two commas because it is in the middle of the sentence. And the second non-essential modifier is placed after only one comma because it is placed at the end of the sentence. Please look at the tips for non-essential modifier. 1. Non-essential modifier is usually placed between two commas. A non-essential modifier describes a unique noun. In the sense, there is only one such noun. Finally, the removal of the non-essential modifier from the sentence does not impact the meaning of the sentence. In other words, when we remove the non-essential modifier from the sentence, the meaning of the sentence does not change. With this, the third subtopic of subject-verb agreement, that is, modifiers as middlemen, is done. Now, we begin the fourth subtopic of subject-verb agreement, that is, the subordinators or the subordinating clauses. You have a list of subordinators here. Please go through the list. You have a big list. After, although, as, for, as, because, before, even if. You could also notice that all relative pronouns are also subordinators. A clause that begins with a subordinator is called a subordinate clause. A subordinate clause cannot stand alone as a complete sentence, or a subordinate clause doesn't make sense on its own. Or to make sense, a subordinate clause must be attached to an independent clause or a main clause. Look at the examples. If you score at least 600 in GMAT, you will have chances to receive an admission in a B school. If you score at least 600 in GMAT, this is a subordinate or a subordinating clause or a dependent clause. This clause begins with a subordinator if this clause itself doesn't make sense. Hence, we attach the subordinating clause to an independent clause. What is the independent clause here? The independent clause is you will have chances to receive an admission in a B school. Similarly, in the second sentence, that is, unless you have at least 5 years of work experience, you may not be hired for the position of the manager. In this sentence, the clause, unless you have at least 5 years of work experience, is a subordinating clause or a subordinate clause. It begins with a subordinator, that is unless. This clause is linked to or attached to an independent or a main clause. That is, you may not be hired for the position of the manager. Please notice each clause, the subordinate clause has a subject and a verb. Similarly, the main clause also has a subject and a verb. From this, you should understand that in a sentence, other than the modifiers, there could also be subordinating clauses. Hence, after removing all the modifiers and the subordinating clauses, the sentence must make sense. In other words, after you ignore all the middlemen and the subordinate clauses, a subject and a verb must remain, and the subject with its verb must make sense. The fifth subtopic on the subject-verb agreement is a number of versus the number of. The phrase a number of is a plural phrase. Look at the examples. A number of workers have lost employment because of the introduction of artificial intelligence into the automobile industry. In this sentence, the subject is a number of workers, which is plural phrase. Hence, we use a plural verb, that is have lost. Now look at the other phrase, that is the number of. The number of is a singular phrase. Look at the example. The number of dowry deaths in the rural India has reduced drastically since the enactment of the Dowry Prohibition Act. In this example, the subject is the number of dowry deaths, which is a singular phrase. Hence, we use a singular verb, that is has reduced. The sixth subtopic on subject-verb agreement is each and every. Every state has a representation in the upper house of the parliament. So every is followed by a singular verb. Now let us look at each. Each is very important. We should use a singular verb if each precedes, means comes before a plural noun. For example, each of the participants, each of the delegates, etc. So in these cases, you have each plus a plural noun. Hence, we use a singular verb. Please note, you have each comes before the plural noun. Hence, we use a singular verb. Each of the participants has received a certificate. Each of the delegates has come with his offer. In each of the two sentences, the verb is singular, that is has. The structure here is each plus a plural noun. However, we use a plural verb if each follows a plural noun, if it is plural noun plus each structure. For example, the participants each, the delegates each. In these cases, each follows the plural noun. Look at the examples. The participants each have received, not has received. We say have received. Why? Because in these cases we have plural noun plus each structure. Hence it is the participants each have received diploma certificates in teaching. Similarly, the delegates each have come with their offers. You could notice the difference between with his offer and with their offers. The seventh subtopic on subject-verb agreement is collective nouns. Collective nouns are always singular. Look at the list of collective nouns: jury, agency, army, audience, class, colony, cluster, family, etc. Similarly, you have another non-living group: baggage, equipment, fleet, furniture, citrus, etc. All these are called collective nouns because each of these words has some nouns in it. When I say jury, you will see at least 2 or 3 judges in it. Similarly, an audience, class, family, each of these has some nouns in it. Hence, it is a collective nouns. And in GMAT, the collective noun is always treated as a singular noun. Look at the example. Because of the rain, my family has decided to postpone the trip to Manali. So the subject is my family and the verb is has decided. In the same way, in the remaining 2 sentences also, we see that committee and audience are followed by singular verbs. Now, eighth subtopic in subject-verb agreement. The topic is verb-subject order. What does verb-subject order mean? In some cases, the subject follows the verb. In other words, it is verb plus subject structure. It is not subject plus verb. Even in such cases, the verb must agree with the subject. If the subject is singular, the verb must be singular. Similarly, if the subject is plural, then the verb must be plural. Look at the examples. There are 7 patients in the queue. In this case, the sentence starts with a plural verb are and the subject is a plural subject, that is 7 patients. We use a plural verb because the subject is plural. If you reverse this order, if you make it subject plus verb order, it would read like this: 7 patients are in the queue. Thus, whether it is subject plus verb or verb plus subject, the verb must agree with the subject in number, and the subject and the verb together must make sense. Look at one more example. There are a pen and a pencil on the table. In this case, we use a plural verb are because the subject is also plural, that is a pen and a pencil. Look at this example. Around the corner are a church, a library, and a restaurant. What is the subject in this sentence? The subject is a church, a library, and a restaurant. This is a compound or a plural subject. Hence, we use a plural verb are. When you reverse the order, when you make it subject plus verb order, then this sentence reads like this: a church, a library, and a restaurant are around the corner. Whenever you are in confusion because of the reverse order, that is verb plus subject, just reverse the order, make it subject plus verb, and read the sentence. Now, the ninth subtopic in subject-verb agreement is or, either or, and neither nor. If 2 nouns, one singular noun, another plural noun, are joined by a phrase such as or, either or, neither nor, then the verb must agree with the nearest noun. Please note the phrase nearest noun. Nearest noun is the tip. Look at the example. Two motorbikes or a car was used by the culprits to escape from the town. In this case, the verb is was used. Why do we use a singular verb? Because the nearest noun is a car. Since the subject car is singular, we use a singular verb was used. Similarly, in the second sentence, either the landlord or his sons have registered a complaint against the tenant. Why do we use a plural verb have registered? It's because the subject is the closest noun, that the nearest noun, that is his sons. Hence we use a plural verb have registered. Look at the third sentence. Neither the students nor the teacher has attended this seminar. Why do we use a singular verb? It's because the nearest noun is teacher, which is a singular noun. Hence we say has attended. Note the words either, neither, and none take singular verbs on GMAT sentence correction questions. Look at the examples. Either of the two ministers was involved in the scandal. We use either when there are two nouns. Since it is two ministers, we use either. Either is used in the positive sense and neither is used in the negative sense. Both either and neither must be used only with two nouns, but none can be used when there are several nouns. None of the professors is interested in teaching in the state-sponsored colleges. Here we use a singular verb is. What is the difference between either and any? Both either and any are singular subjects. It means they refer to just one noun. However, we use either to mean one of the two things or one of the two persons. For example, either of the couple. We don't say any of the couple. Any of the couple would be wrong. Either of the twin cities. You can't say any of the twin cities because twin cities means two cities. So with two nouns we can use only either. We can't use any. Any. We use any to mean one of the many things or one of the many persons. We could say any of the citizens. When I say citizens, there are so many people. So I say any of the citizens, any of the cities, any of the parties. Neither versus none. We use neither to mean one of the two things or one of the two persons in the negative sense. Neither of the couple, neither of the two cities, or neither of the two parties. So the opposite of either is neither. The opposite of any is none. Now look at the example here. None. We use none to mean one of the many things or one of the many persons in the negative sense. None of the citizens or none of the planets, none of the brothers and sisters. We could not say neither of the brothers and sisters because when I say brothers there are at least two. When I say sisters there are at least two. the brothers and sisters, it means there are at least four people. So with four people, I can't use either. I must use none. Either can be used only with two nouns. Please note the words either, neither, and none take singular verbs. Look at the examples. Either of the two ministers was involved in the scandal. Neither of the two sisters was beautiful. Has any of the candidates been selected for scholarship? None of the professors is interested in teaching in the state-sponsored colleges. If any of us is ready to go abroad, the company will support him or her. With this, we finish all the subtopics in GMAT sentence correction subject-verb agreement. Please glance over the tips and tricks for subject-verb agreement. The first trick is nouns that are part of a modifier cannot be the subjects. Second, additive phrases such as along with, accompanied by, including, and as well as plus noun or prepositions such as on, at, with, across, from, for plus noun, or a participle, present participle or past participle such as walking, watching, spoken, taken, broken plus a noun, and a relative pronoun such as that, which, who, where, whose plus noun. These nouns cannot be the subjects, in the sense the noun which is part of a middleman or a modifier cannot be the subject. In case of or, either or neither nor construction, the verb agrees to the closest or the nearest subject. For example, X, Y or G. The verb must agree with G. The leader as well as the followers is. The leaders as well as the followers are. In this case, as well as the followers is the additive phrase. After I ignore the additive phrase, the noun, the leader or the leaders remains, and that would be the subject. Tip number 9. We use singular verbs with none, any, either and neither. Tip number 10. The word many is used to modify countable items, for example, many apples. And for uncountable things, the modifier much should be used, as in much money. Tip number 11. Phrases or clauses used as nouns or subjects usually take singular verbs. Tip number 12. The countable nouns. The nouns which we can count can take plural verbs. What are the countable nouns? Boys, girls, pens, pencils take plural verbs. Uncountable nouns take singular verbs. What are uncountable nouns? What are uncountable nouns? The nouns with which we can't count. We can't say 1, 2, 3, for such as time, money, paper. You can't say one time, two time, three times. You can't say one money, two monies, three monies. You can't say one paper, two paper. You could count the minutes. You could count the hours, but you can't count time. Similarly, you can't count money. You could count currencies. You could say rupees, dollars, pounds, but you can't say 10 monies, 15 monies. Similarly, you could say 2 sheets of paper or a sheet of paper, but you can't say 10 papers. Hence, with uncountable nouns, we use singular verbs. Similarly, although and other subordinates are followed by subject plus verb. So these are the tips. Now please pause the video for some time and try this official guide subject verb agreement question. Please use the approach that I explained in my previous video. Now let me explain you this question. In my previous video, I said that we should never begin with reading the given sentence because reading would burn our time. We would be wasting our time by reading the sentence. We start grouping the options on the basis of common elements and differences. Now let us look at these 5 options. Options A, C and E have the plural verb have, and options B and D have the singular verb has. Since some options have the singular verb has and the other options have the plural verb have, you must look for the subject in the sentence and see whether the subject is singular or plural. Now look at the given sentence. How do you identify the subject in a sentence? I told you to identify the subject in a sentence, you must eliminate or ignore the middlemen, the modifiers. What are the modifiers in this sentence? You have a prepositional phrase. What is that? Of the barcode or of the universal product code. And you also have a relative clause. What is that? Which was created in part to enable supermarkets to process customers at a faster rate. After I eliminate the prepositional phrase and the relative clause, what is the subject now? The subject is the use, and the verb should be singular, that is has expanded. Now you need to eliminate all the options which have plural verbs. So how many options have plural verbs? Option A, option C and option E are eliminated because they have the plural verb have. Now 2 options, namely B and D, are left. You must look for differences between these 2 options. What differences do you see between these 2 options? Option B has a pronoun they. What is the antecedent of this pronoun? In other words, to which plural noun does this plural pronoun refer? You know they is a plural pronoun. A plural pronoun must refer to a plural noun in the sentence. But there is no such antecedent exists in the sentence. Hence, you eliminate option B. Now, only one option, that is option D, left. Only one option is left, that is option D. Now, we replace the underlined part of the sentence by the option D and read it. Now, the sentence reads like this. The use of the barcode or universal product code, which was created in part to enable supermarkets to process customers at a faster rate, has expanded beyond supermarkets to other retail outlets and has become readily accepted despite some initial opposition when the barcode was first introduced in 1974. This option makes sense. There is no grammar error anymore. Hence, option D is the best answer choice. Now please pause the video and try this official guide question the way I have done the previous question. Please apply the approach that I have suggested to you. Let me explain this question to you. Again, I start from the options. I already told you that in GMAT sentence correction questions, you find some grammar markers in the beginning of the options or at the end of the options. And sometimes you could also see those grammar markers in the middle of the options. You should always look for markers in the initial words of the options. If I do so, then I see that options A, B and C have the word include, which is a verb, and D and E have includes, that is also a verb. What is the difference between include and includes? I told you that when we add yes or es to the verb, then it becomes singular. Speak, speaks. Do, does. Do is plural. Does is singular. Speak is singular. Speak is plural. And speaks is singular. You say Ram speaks. Because Ram is singular, speaks is also singular. Similarly, they speak. They is plural and speak is also plural. Now, A, B, C have a plural verb include. D and E have a singular verb includes. Since the options have singular and plural verbs, now I look for the subject in the sentence. And now I analyze this sentence. I identify this subject by eliminating or by ignoring the middleman. Do you see any middleman in this sentence? Yes. That make up the dolphin family. That is a relative clause. When I ignore that, the relative clause, then what is left? The 32 species. The 32 species is a plural noun. Now look for the plural verbs. I already see one, that is are. Are closely related to whales. And after that I see a conjunction or a parallel marker, that is and. And after and I see one more verb, that is include. That means it is a compound sentence in which you have a subject and two verbs joined with and. The subject is 32 species. One verb is are. So the other verb has to be plural, that is include. Now I eliminate the options having the singular verbs, namely options D and E are eliminated. Now I look for the differences in the remaining three options. I said I resplit options A, B and C. When I resplit options A, B and C, I see a difference. That is, option C has the word being. The last word of option C is being. Please note that in GMAT sentence correction, options having being are usually wrong. They are least preferred options. Of course, we don't eliminate them outright, but we keep them aside. We consider the remaining two, and if we find an option without any grammar errors or meaning errors, then we will choose the best option in the remaining options. But if we find some or other error in the remaining options, then we will come back to the being option. Now let us evaluate options A and B and see whether we can get an option which has no grammar or meaning errors. Look at option B. Option B has big and long. There are two synonyms. Of course, they are not grammatically wrong, or there is nothing wrong with the meaning of the sentence, but usually we eliminate the options which have synonyms. Big and long are synonyms. They are using two synonyms is redundant. So on the grounds of redundancy, we eliminate option B. Now look at option A. Option A doesn't have any grammar or meaning error, nor is there any redundancy in the sentence. Hence, we choose option A. So option A is the best option. I'm going to post one more video in which I will explain only official guide sentence correction questions. Thanks for watching my video. If you are looking for any coaching for GMAT, GRE, SAT, online or offline coaching, please call us. Our number is 844-855-7665. You can also write us at emailgyan, GNAN, emailgyan@gmail.com. You could also WhatsApp us for any coaching details, for any online or offline coaching queries. Our WhatsApp number is 99715825516. Please subscribe to our channel. Also, press the notification bell so that you get notified as we post new videos. Please like, subscribe and share our videos. Thank you. Thanks for watching. Good luck.